news@news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. U.S. State Department raises red flags over passage of anti-LGBTQ bill by the Ghanaian Parliament, citing threats to fundamental human rights. Meanwhile, the Majority Leader Alexander Apenyomarkin says the bill in its current form could suffer a setback in court due to some inherent defects. As the Majority Leader talks, minority mounts pressure on government to tell Ghanaians the truth on the true state of the energy sector following power outages in parts of the country. We'll bring you some other stories from across the country. Do stay with us. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, the United States of America has expressed concern over the passage of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, popularly known as the Anti-Gay Bill. Ghana's parliament yesterday passed the bill, but the U.S. says the passage of the legislation will undermine human rights. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller says the bill would threaten all Ghanaians' constitutionally protected freedoms of speech, press and assembly. He adds that the bill would also undermine Ghana's valuable public health, media and civic spaces and the economy. Meanwhile, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has described as profoundly disturbing the passage of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2024. Volker Turk called for the bill not to become law. But why is this bill upsetting the international community? Let's look at some details of the bill. The name of the bill, which was a proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, now proper removed. Object of the bill to provide for proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values, prescribe LGBTQ+ and related activities, prescribe propaganda of, advocacy for or promotion of LGBTQIAAP+ and related activities. Key aspects of the bill include persons caught in LGBTQ activity could face a minimum of 6 months and maximum of 3 years in jail. Promoters of the bill and sponsors of such acts could face between 3 and 5 years in jail, places an obligation on a person in whose presence an offense is committed to report to the police. Now that the bill has been passed, how will it become law? The bill has to be presented to the president for assent. The president will indicate within 7 days after receipt whether he assents to the bill or will not do so. Now, where the president opts not to assent, he shall within 14 days state in a memorandum to the Speaker of Parliament his specific concerns. Parliament shall then consider the bill, taking into account comment by the president. The bill would then be passed with 2/3 approval, at least 183 members of the House, and the president must then assent to the bill within 30 days. Now, there have been some reactions. Let's first listen to the board chairperson of the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, Professor Audrey Gajepo, who wants a future government to annul the bill if it is assented to.
First of all, we will express our grave disappointment, and we will say that it actually, in doing that, would undercut the president's credentials about somebody who throughout his life, his working life as a lawyer, and before he became president, espoused certain values. And those values included protecting minority rights. But we will go to court also, because we believe that we live in a democracy, and if there are provisions in laws that have been proposed or passed that we think contravene the Constitution, then as activists, we ought to go and make sure that the Supreme Court rules on it.
That was Audrey Gajepo with the CDD. Now, meanwhile, the Majority Leader of Parliament, Alexander Apenyomarkin, says the bill in its current form has defects that could suffer if concerns are raised about its legality in court. He maintains his colleagues should have allowed further discussions to correct these defects.
Yesterday, when they came and they themselves moved for further second consideration.
Yeah.
I said, here we are. Then I told them, then let's look at the 12. The 12 too should be subjected to the constitutional provision. They said, no. So I felt that it's like one way. You want to have your way, but you don't want to hear anybody. So I think that they themselves have seen it, but they've not seen all. My job has ended in Parliament. A Democrat must concede, accept the situation, and move on. The rest of it is for others to play their role. All right? I have said, as a lawyer, I see serious constitutional issues in there. Yesterday, they attempted to cure some of them. They didn't cure all. So I see all of that.
Okay.
But my job ended yesterday as a Democrat in that chamber. Okay. And that's it.
There was a Majority Leader, Alexander Apanyomakin, giving his views on this very issue. We'll return to this and bring you some brief discussion on it. But ahead of that, we still stay in Parliament because the minority there is mounting pressure on the government to tell Ghanaians the truth on the true state of the energy sector. This follows several power outages in the country. Parts of the country, including the capital city, have in recent times been experiencing outages without explanation from managers of the sector. Last night, for instance, several areas in Accra, including East Legon, Adringano, Trasako, Ashaliboche, and parts of Tema were plunged in darkness. Some residents of the city spoke to us about the power situation.
Usually we don't stay home, right, because we work here in Accra, so I mean, yesterday we go home about 5:36 there, right? Then about 6:37, light went off. It's been off till this dawn when I was coming. It was so like my phone was off. I'm recharging with power bank right now.
If I'm to compare our area, like I would say, maybe it's because of the hospital, the psychiatric hospital. So the light has been on 24/7. Yeah. So if I'm to say like the ECG, they are doing good.
Well, I live in Osu. Papaye down to be precise, and we've been experiencing some few times power outages. Yesterday it went off for a while, and then I think after 30 minutes it came back, and as we speak it's still on. We have been experiencing this some few times. Maybe it has gone off for about 7 times if my memory serves me right. And ECG people came to our area to change meters, and then they haven't integrated it into their system. So the challenges we are facing now is that since they changed it, if you are going to buy prepaid, they will tell you they can't see the meter number in their system. Yeah, so many of us went to ECG. They gave them notes that they should come and do illegal, and that when the new ones have been integrated into the system, they will know how to sort things out.
Around 7 p.m. last night, we got a power outage. So we waited. Yesterday was very, very bad. The heat, like the feeling wasn't good. And like yesterday, I couldn't sleep. In the midnight, I was just lying there because I was just sweating. There is doom. So guys, there is. Let's all speak the truth.
You heard some residents of Accra there. Well, the minority is demanding an explanation. Ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee, John Jinapo, says the government must act now.
Load shedding is getting worse by the day. The very day His Excellency the President was delivering the State of the Nation address and boasting, at that very period, the utility companies were shedding load. The situation appears to be exacerbating. Yesterday alone, there was a whopping 530 megawatts of deficits, culminating in curtailment of power to Côte d'Ivoire, to Burkina Faso, and to Togo. You would attest that there was some massive darkness yesterday. Today at 12 p.m., load shedding would commence again. Our investigation indicates that some of the thermal plants are down. Specifically, TAPCO is down, TICO is down, and so they are not generating enough power. But more importantly, there's a lack of fuel in the system. Because of the financial constraints, government has not been able to procure adequate fuel to fire some of our thermal plants, culminating in the load shedding that we're experiencing. 1 month of load shedding is more than enough. This is not sporadic. This is continuous. This is persistent. And we think that the handlers of the power sector should do the onerous thing by informing the people of Ghana so they can plan ahead of time.
That was John Jinapo. He is ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. The Majority Leader, Alexander Penyomarkin, has also been speaking about this, also equally saying that Ghanaians deserve prior notice to the outages.
Perfect. I told you that yesterday my lights were on. Today my lights are on. It doesn't mean that I always get light. Sometimes my light go off without notice. So I agree with you that ECG should come out and update us. If for some technical reasons we will not have light, we should know beforehand. And I agree with you on that score.
Okay.
We shouldn't reduce everything to politics. It's a state institution. It should be able to update Ghanaians because we pay electricity.
Yeah.
So they should be able to update us beforehand that today you would have light for 5 hours because of A, B, C, and D. So we are clear. So I agree with you.
Okay.
That call is to my friend Mahama.
Mahama, yes.
And that was Alexander Penyomarkin. He is the Majority Leader of Parliament. Let's return to our first story about the passage of the what is popularly called the Anti-LGBTQ bill. And I'm joined by Michael Osesibe. He's the president of the Humanist Association of Ghana. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone.
First of all, we know that you've had your own views about this bill, and finally it's been passed. Your reaction to it?
I wasn't surprised, though, that it was passed because of the vitriol and then the passion with which it was being run through the parliamentary process. But yet still, I'm still saddened that we've come to this point, and we just have to find ways of, as activists and as human rights folks, ways of looking past this and seeing how we can still safeguard, the rights of minorities.
And if you say that how you can still safeguard the rights of what people say minority groups, how are you going to do that?
There is, of course, what Prof alluded to, which is the legal route, which is challenging the law on its merits. That I'm sure the legal luminaries amongst us will be looking at. There is also appealing to the empathy and compassion of the people of Ghana, who have been, I believe, mostly misinformed about this whole situation, and appealing to them so that they can, again, the law as it stands seeks that Ghanaians themselves will do the reporting. So appealing to the empathy and then the compassion of Ghanaians, for them to understand that these minorities are also just as fellow Ghanaians and fellow human beings just like them, then we may be able to see if we can mitigate some of the repercussions of this law if it is indeed attempted to.
If you choose to go to court, on what basis?
A lot of bases. Prof has alluded to a few of them, but mostly on the basis of freedom of speech, freedom of association. A lot of the fundamentals of this law samples on previously established laws, especially on human rights and of course on several other rights that we have signed to internationally. So yes, if it doesn't work in Ghana, we of course have the People's Court as well, the African Court. So there are a lot of ways in which we can attack this particular problem.
Ms. Asibe, before you go, I'm sure you're aware that the highest human rights court, which is called the Court of Human Rights in Europe, actually released a judgment on this in 2010, where it ruled that homosexuality was not a human right. And I could just read excerpt of some of their judgment, and it said that Article 12 enshrined the traditional concept of marriage as being between a man and a woman. The court acknowledged that a number number of contracting states had extended marriage to same-sex partners, but went on to say that this reflected their own vision of the role of marriage in their societies and did not flow from an interpretation of the fundamental right as laid down by the contracting state in the convention in 1950.
Yes. I am privy to this. But again, this was all about marriage. What we are asking for, no one has ever asked for gay rights or gay marriage rights in Ghana. If it were, it would be called a civil union. No one has ever asked for that. What we are asking for is right to just be, to exist, to not be harmed, to be who they are in body and in spirit.
All right, we'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. And that was Michael Osesibe. He is the president of the Humanist Association of Ghana, giving his views there regarding the passage of the what is popularly called the Anti-LGBTQI bill. Thank you for speaking to us now.